Wrath of the Lich King Classic is coming to an end very soon. Icecrown Citadel will open up, and Arthas will fall once again. And the big question is, what is next? Now, if Classic just keeps going in the same order from the past, Cataclysm Classic would be up next. But personally, I do not think they should do Cataclysm. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about why I feel that way. And I know this is a topic a lot of people will have opinions on, so feel free to write what you think down in the comments below. I like seeing other people's thoughts and opinions on the game, even if they don't align with my thoughts and opinions of the game. Now, I understand that if Cataclysm Classic is already the plan, there is no stopping it at this point. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, and it's gonna be announced at BlizzCon. Chris Metzen isn't gonna see this video and go, you know what? Hey boys, I saw this Zuggy Poo guy's video, and it really made me think. Let's shut down the whole operation because he thinks it'll be bad. No, that's not gonna happen, alright? And now I know there's a lot of people who have nostalgia for Cataclysm, me included. It was one of my favorite times playing WoW during that expansion, but I also realized that it wasn't because of the expansion itself. It was just the time, and it just happened to be Cata going on at that time. And when I've spoken on not wanting Cata Classic in my past videos, I've gotten comments of people who were saying stuff like, well, they want it because it was their first expansion and they want to re-experience it. Now, in a way, Cataclysm was also my first expansion too. Now, I started in Wrath of the Lich King, yes, but I spent a majority of the time playing those 10-day free trial accounts because we were really poor growing up, okay? I wasn't convincing my parents to buy me a game, 2 expansions for that game, and a subscription to keep playing that game, alright? That was off the table for a long time. But when I finally did get a full account, I never got to max level until Cataclysm. So Cata was my first time at endgame. And now I think the argument of wanting to relive your first expansion is a bad argument because every single expansion has players who that was their first expansion they played. Are we going to give every single one of them that point to relive? And well, that brings me to my first big argument for not doing Cataclysm Classic. If Cataclysm Classic comes out, then when does it end? If you do Cataclysm, people are going to want Mists of Pandaria. And then after that, what are we going to do? Warlords of Draenor Classic? Is that really going to happen? Where does Classic end at that point? In my opinion, Wrath of the Lich King is the stopping point for Classic, and it always should have been planned to be the stopping point from the beginning. Vanilla, Burning Crusade, and Wrath of the Lich King are the perfect trilogy for Classic, and they should not go any further. Once they go past Wrath, there is no end in sight, and we'll eventually end up back at Dragonflight Classic. Are we really going to do that? So that's one of the main reasons I think it shouldn't happen, but let's kind of get into Cataclysm itself, you know, the systems and features that it added to the game. Now, if you ask me, Cataclysm, with all of its changes and features, doesn't fit under the category of, quote, Classic. Now, if you compare Cataclysm to Dragonflight, yes, they are 2 very different games that are miles apart, but it is also miles apart from Vanilla. I think Cata was just the start of a new trilogy, being Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, and Warlords of Draenor. And in my opinion, we don't need to relive them. We don't need to relive every trilogy of the game. They just do not fall under the category of Classic for me. Now, the first thing Cataclysm does is change up the old world quite a bit, and the actual landscape changes they made to the world, I would argue, were not very good. They didn't necessarily change the zones as much as they just destroyed a bunch of zones. And the zone that got destroyed the worst was my beautiful Orgrimmar. Now, I know this is subjective, but, you know, old Orgrimmar was just so much better in my opinion, okay? I love Garrosh. He was a great war chief. You know, greatest part of Cataclysm was having him in charge, but, you know, he didn't have to butcher my Orgrimmar like that. And another thing that changed with the old zones was a ton of the early game quests. And I do think a lot of the questing that was changed was good. Like, for example, in Vanilla, if you're an orc, after finishing Durtar, they tell you in one quest, hey, go to the crossroads in the Barrens, okay? Just go there. But in Cataclysm, they made it so when you get into the Barrens, you get into a small quest hub in the Barrens, you help out a little bit, and then you have to defend a caravan, slowly making your way to the crossroads with a couple steps along the way. And I do think a lot of these quests were very good, and they were more intuitive. And they also added the quest helper into the game, which I think is fine, because almost everybody used Questy anyways. But all these new quests, they're in retail WoW. So why take the old questing from vanilla out and then replace it with katas again when we already have that still in retail? And I am also somebody who really enjoys the questing in vanilla too. I think it's better, to be honest, but I like going all over the place rather than just doing all the questing in one zone to its completion before moving on to the next one. I like moving back and forth between zones and having to come back when you're stronger and shit like that. But they also added flying to the old world, which I personally think was bad. And I know some people like it, but I just don't really. And yes, there was flying added in Burning Crusade and in Wrath of the Lich King, but those zones were designed with flying in mind, where in vanilla, those zones were not designed with flying in mind. Another big thing that was added in Cataclysm was Transmog. And I'm gonna say it, Transmog goes against the idea of, quote, Classic. To me, a big part of Classic is being able to look at somebody and tell that they are a badass, that they are a raider, a good player, whatever you want to say about them, all right? You want Transmog to feel special and feel cool? Well, too bad, you aren't cool. You want to be cool? Go raid. Go do the content that gets you the cool looking gear so that you can be a badass. I also don't know if there's a lot of people who know how Transmog actually worked back then too. It wasn't like how it is now where everything saves into a collection tab and you can always transmog to everything you've ever collected. No, it wasn't like that. You actually had to have the pieces of gear that you wanted to transmog in your bag when you went to the transmog dude. So if you're a guy who likes transmogging, your bank is just going to be full of junk gear because you think it looks cool and you want to keep it around. They didn't have the collections tab back then. They didn't save your appearances, and they didn't even have the system that Diablo has where you could just transmog the item slot itself and new armor you put on just keeps that transmog. But no, I will not ever argue in favor of transmog in Classic. It just takes away the feel of Classic. Up next, let's talk about the raiding in Cataclysm. Because, well, in my opinion, the raids are just not very good. The only raid that I enjoyed was Firelands, and Dragon Soul was the worst end of expansion raid we've ever gotten, except for maybe like Sepulcher in Shadowlands. But if you're using Shadowlands as your argument, like, you lost the argument already. But Dragon Soul, it was just full of reused assets, and the only thing cool about it was being able to be in the Maelstrom at like the middle of Azeroth. That was like a pretty cool just place to just be at. But I thought the Deathwing fights were bad. Like, it's a real shame that Dragonflight has a better Deathwing raid boss fight than the expansion that was about Deathwing. But, you know, me and my friends, we did really enjoy going into LFR back in the day and purposely standing on the wrong sides during the Spine of Deathwing fight to make them roll and kill a bunch of people. It was fun to troll people. But, you know, hold up. What did I just say there? Yeah, LFR. All right, LFR was added during Cataclysm in the last patch, and I stand with my opinion that LFR was a bad idea to add to the game. And it also goes against everything that is Classic. But let's forget about the baby mode difficulty for a second, because that doesn't even come in until the end. And let's talk about the regular difficulty. Raids in Cataclysm were harder than anything before it, and by a long shot too. In my opinion, part of what makes Classic so much fun and added to its success was more simple raid mechanics. And that just gets completely thrown away in Cataclysm, all right? We already saw the number of people raiding in Classic drop when Ulduar came out in Wrath Classic. Why? Well, because Ulduar was harder than anything that came before it. And if it goes into Cataclysm, which makes raiding way harder, I guarantee raiding numbers are going to be at an all-time low for Classic. And finally, let's talk about the worst thing that was added in Cataclysm. Yeah, that's right, the Worgens. This is when furries decided to come in and just ruin our game, and Blizzard let them. Nah, I'm just kidding, actually. Now, I still don't really like the Worgen race, but if you do, I don't care. But they also added the best race, you know, the Goblins, okay? And I've played a Goblin on my main character ever since the day Cataclysm came out, and I still don't want Cataclysm Classic. Now, if they decide to give us Classic Plus, I really want to be able to play one of those ugly-ass vanilla goblins that are always around the towns. Now, another system that was added in Cataclysm that a lot of people like is the reforging system. This system, you were able to take your gear, and if there was a stat that wasn't too good for you, you were able to change that stat to something that was good for you. But this does have a downside, okay? I'm gonna say it, because imagine you're in a raid or a dungeon or something, and something drops that is best of slot for you. It's got the best stats for you already, but hey, somebody else who it isn't best for is gonna roll on that item now because they could just reforge that stat that isn't so good for them, making it now best in slot for them too. So that is gonna be frustrating. There was tons of other things added in Cataclysm, but I'm not here to go over every single change and addition during the expansion, okay? I just wanted to talk about the major ones that I think break what Classic is supposed to be. And that was my main argument here in this video. Cataclysm is not what Classic is supposed to be. It takes away a lot of what the game used to be, and that's what people wanted with Classic WoW in the first place. We wanted what the game used to be. And I think it would just be way more worth it to not have a team of people working on Cataclysm and just have a team of people working on something like Classic Plus. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about Classic Plus in this video because that's just not what this video is about today. But do I think Cataclysm Classic is a possibility? Yes, of course, mostly because they have microtransactions in it, and Blizzard probably doesn't want to get rid of a game that has a bunch of microtransactions in it. But hey, if private servers are any tell, there's tons of private servers that still go on Wrath of the Lich King nonstop. So they could keep Wrath of the Lich King Classic going forever, all right? Just keep that one up. Don't move into Cataclysm. I don't think there's nearly as many Cataclysm private servers going as there is Wrath, so why not just keep it on a version of the game that people like? And of course, my other main argument that, well, if Cataclysm Classic comes out, truly, when does Classic end? They're just gonna keep it going forever, and I just don't think that should happen. Anyways, though, I would love to know the thoughts of everyone down in the comments below, even if you completely disagree and somehow think Cataclysm Classic would be a good thing, all right? I know I'm going to be sitting there with anxiety and on the edge of my seat during BlizzCon for every Warcraft announcement, hoping that it isn't Cataclysm. Anyways, though, BlizzCon is only a month away, so I guess we're going to find out pretty soon. And for now, we just get another month of speculating what's going to happen. If you made it this far and you don't know what else to comment, drop a zug down there and I'll know you made it to the end of the video. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.